The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we're going to answer a bunch of listener questions and cover a few pieces of Austin FC news. My name's Landon Cottom, and I am once again joined by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. And Landon, I'm glad to have you back for many reasons. One, I kind of missed you.
Aw.
Two, it's a lot of pressure to say hello, friends. And three, we haven't talked about your trip. And so, in real time, the listeners, well, I guess I'll learn before the listeners, but in the adjusted space-time continuum we live in and recording on a Monday night, we're all going to hear about your trip to Japan, in the moment. So welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we've shared show notes or screenshots of show notes with people at various moments. And I think listener Nick and maybe a few other people have given me crap about having the intro written down in the notes. And these people clearly have never been staring at the red recording light while talking into a microphone before, because even if it's the same thing every time, I need to read it off the page every time. And Jeremiah, you've seen us have to re-record it because either me or you mistyped something in the show notes, and I just read it. Just Ron Burgundied right through it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad. And you said you were trying to remember how to set everything up and relearning. It's like rediscovering America right here on the show.
Yeah. So the trip was wonderful. Thank you to you and to Mike and Adrian for filling in and kind of picking up all my duties while I was out. It was a very well enjoyed vacation. We have some listener questions about our trip to Japan, and so I'll save some of the details for that. But one soccer related story that I'll tell now is we were there. We were hoping to maybe get tickets to a baseball game because that's something that is pretty specific to Japan, the baseball culture there. The problem was that it was the finals, the equivalent to the World Series was happening the week that we were there, meaning tickets were impossible to come by. And so we were like, okay, we're not going to do baseball. Let's try to go to a soccer game instead. And we got tickets to see the Urawa Red Diamonds, who folks who watch the Club World Cup will know. If you saw them, that their fans are insane. And they gave Drewcy's River Plate a run for their money in one of the games and ended up losing, but looked really good against River for most of that game. So they were in town. It's just outside of Tokyo. Tickets are very affordable. And so we bought tickets to go to that game, get out there. The reason, again, we bought tickets to go to this game was because their fans are so insane. That's going to be a really cool stadium atmosphere. We get to the stadium and realize that the fans are protesting because of how bad the team has been lately. So the home fans were entirely silent the entire game.
Oh, wow, man. And that's a very soccer kind of thing, right? There's no more evidence of the difference in culture between what soccer fans do and fans of other sports do. There's no way, I don't care how mad somebody is at your favorite National Football League team, people will show up and boo and wear bags over their heads, but they're not just going to be in silence.
Yeah, it was they were reacting to things, and you would hear the or they would give a little clap for something, but as far as the chanting and singing goes, none of that was happening. Luckily, the opposing fans, it was Machida Zelvia, who is also in the Tokyo area, and so they had a really strong traveling contingency, and they were absolutely crazy. They were really, really good. So we still got a bit of a show fan atmosphere wise. And then also there's a lot of debate, especially in the stupidest corners of the internet, about whether Austin FC fans should maybe take similar approaches to this kind of thing, right? We sing and chant no matter what, even louder when you're down, right? Some people don't like that. And so that's what we got in this game. Okay, you're bad, we're going to be silent. And guess how the players responded to this?
I'm going to guess that they all cried. They couldn't even perform their duties and the team lost 6-0 because they were so despondent.
It was a 0-0 draw with like 2 shots on target.
Oh, okay. Oh, never mind
then. So inconclusive as to the effectiveness of this approach. So
protest.
I would say let's just keep singing and have fun, even if the team is bad. But Ashley was like, "Are you disappointed with that? Like, are you sad you didn't get to see a good game?" I was like, I'm an Austin FC fan. Like, I still had a good time out at the ballpark. So yeah, I can handle it.
You know, I don't know how much you paid attention to the games back here, that were going on like in Austin, but one of the things that I talked about with Mike last week was the atmosphere on that Sunday night and how it was really good because everybody knew it was the last game of the year and we had nothing to play for and we were probably going to lose. So it was really freeing, in terms of like vibes, but that's just like that other just like let's be angry about everything and like sit everything out kind of like that's such a contrast to like what should be a joyful experience for being a fan.
Yeah, I got to see. I didn't get to watch either of the games live in their entirety, and I'll have a little anecdote tied to one of the listener questions a bit later on. But I did get to see pregame of that home match, and was very proud of what the stadium looked like and what the fans looked like. So that was very cool.
Well, let's go on to the other thing for the show.
One more thought back from last week. I very much enjoyed both episodes, the one with Adrian and the one with just you and Mike. But one thing that had me cackling, just laughing really hard, was when Mike asked about his witch deal.
Oh, good. Well, that's what I was hoping we would get into that. Yeah.
And you said, "Man, I hate these witch deals," as if it's a thing that like you experience every day in your day-to-day life. And then you said something like, it's never as good as it seems. And then they try to bake me into a pie or something. Like, I was dying about that. So thank you for the entertainment.
Oh, I'm happy to do that. I thought you maybe had commentary on the deal itself. Like, when you're offered a witch deal, what are you looking out for? What are you skeptical of?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what I would prefer there. I mean, neither scenario is great. And as a reminder, let me make sure I'm remembering this correctly. The deal is you get enough money for it to matter on a sale for Uzuni, and he leaves, but in return, you keep Julio Cascante on his current contract number. Is that right?
Correct. And I think it was a 3-year guaranteed deal specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. We're gonna talk a lot about Uzuni in some of the listener questions, so I still do have some belief in him. But either way you go, right? You're tying your hands as far as to you're putting a lot of weight on one replacement player, right? Either you're replacing Julio's number, like the salary he's on, or you're replacing a DP. Either way, you can't miss. And so I don't know that there's like a clear right answer, but the reality remains the same either way, that whoever you replace them with has to be really good for Austin to be a contender next year.
Yeah, no, we can get into this too later on, because there's another thing we touched on last week is just there's not a gigantic amount of roster flexibility being created. And so that's where like these individual positions and individual moments like make a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we're going to get into that in the news segment, but should we take a break before we do that?
Well, let's do one more thing before we get into that, and let's talk about the Media Cup. So this is the chance of a thing that we get to do, every year. It's probably the coolest part of being like whatever Austin FC media is, and however our part of it like counts. And so we get to play this game every year on the field at Q2. I'm always reminded how big the stadium is. I mean, the field is like, it seems very, very far.
Yeah, and we're not even playing on the full thing. Shortened pitch, right?
Yeah. We're not even playing on the full thing. But one of the things they ask you for is like they ask on a scale of 1 to 5 how skilled you are as a soccer player. And then they ask you like the player that you most resemble. And I think at least this year, and maybe in past years, we both taking a very realistic approach to that. So what player did you tell the club you most resemble?
I said Mikael Dessler, but bad. Because
I like that.
I played in the defense, but can play in the midfield a little bit, but I'm not I'm never playing that last through ball really, but I can be a little bit effective in midfield, just keeping it simple. So I kind of think that's what I put last year too. So maybe I should have come up with a more creative answer because I believe the first year you put Freddie Kleeman as your answer.
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah. And this year I put Albert Childs, but today. And for those of you that nobody that would know, Albert Childs is the oldest living player to ever play for Liverpool FC. So he's now currently 95 years old and played as a central defender. And I think if there's something that sums up my game, although I end up playing fullback, which really speaks more about how slow moving the people around me are than me, that I get pushed out there. But I think that's probably 95-year-old central defender is my game these days.
You're not the oldest guy out on the pitch by any means, though, during these media cups.
No, as long as Phil West keeps playing, I'm okay. I don't even think Phil is either, though. I don't know. There's like a group of us that after the match, it's like me, Phil, Bob Ballou, couple others that talk about, ointments and stretching and things like that.
All right. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, though. It's always very, very cool to be out on that field. And we're very grateful that we've continued to be invited to it.
Yeah. And the other thing we've heard about that is that I think we've said this on the show, maybe it is the hardest thing on the pitch all year long, including when they have concerts and like when they have little kids running around. But like this group of wannabes or never wases that run around and like occasionally slide, even though we're not supposed to, and just tear it up are really the hardest thing that anybody ever does to that field.
RIP Q2. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll cover some Austin FC news, and then we'll get into the listener questions, which we have quite a few of. We're going to try to get through all of them. Hang tight. We'll be right back. When no one is around. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment that you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that serves the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify is the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. All right, we are back. We're going to jump into some Austin FC news before we get to the listener questions segment. Jeremiah, MLS released the full off-season calendar, meaning which dates each mechanism will take place on. I don't know that we necessarily need to go through all those dates or all the things. We'll probably just cover those week by week as they come. But the first order of business will be for Austin FC to make decisions on their pending contracts. So players who are out of contract altogether or have options, and whether or not Austin's going to pick up those options. You guys talked about those guys a little bit last week. So how much more do we want to cover? Do you just want to maybe let me give my take on a couple of them, or is there any other points that you wanted to hit there?
No. I was thinking, so yeah, and that one's due by November 26th, but often clubs announce earlier than the deadline what they're going to do.
I think some teams already have, right? So it could have been today, it could be this week, or it might be sometime in the next few weeks and before that deadline.
Yeah, I was more interested in, is there any different approach that you would have to this? And I think, given like at the end, Mike made me depressed because he talked about how, we're not, no matter what you do, you're probably not creating many, if any, international slots, and there's not like a lot of extra senior roster slots that you can make available given where people are on the roster and who's available for an option to be picked up. So I'm just curious about like your general, what your take is, whether you would do something different. I don't even know who's really a question. Maybe Brendan Heinzike is a question given the way he's played, but like how do you feel about it all?
Yeah, I'm for the most part fully agreed with you and Mike on like Brendan Heinzike's number is so small that I don't like his replacement level guy probably costs you more than that. So I think you pick that up. Diego Rubio, if his if his option is still supplemental, that's a no brainer to me too. Like keep that guy around if he's not going to count towards a senior roster spot. Steph Cleveland, if he's senior roster, like senior roster spots are at a premium for this club right now. I don't see how you could keep him around, and maybe the solution is the next news point that we'll get to here in a little bit. But Ilie is really the one to me that like it's a hard decision because Ilie at his current number, which I think is like 600,000 or something, you can't keep him on that. And whatever his option number is, if it's anywhere close to there, you can't keep him on there. Like he's clearly on the downward slope. If you're going to pay a player that much, they need to be at a higher level on the downward slope or on the upward slope somewhere. If we could keep him on a supplemental deal, that would be fantastic. Do I believe Ilie deserves more than a supplemental deal at this point in his career? Like the intangibles he can bring to a team? Yes, I do think he deserves more money than that. I do not think Austin FC can afford to pay him more than that. We have so many other midfielders that are on senior roster spots that kind of play similar positions that if we're going to level up in this coming year, it's going to take a few senior roster spots and using it on TAM or U22 or whatever it is. But I don't think we can afford to have a non-locked in everyday starter on a senior roster spot, like an additional one, in addition to the ones that we know are going to be on the roster next year. So it sucks that like that's the only option. I wish there was a guarantee way we could keep him around because I would really like to, but I think him on a supplemental is kind of the only way you can do it.
Yeah, and that does seem very unlikely. And really, I mean, what I'm hearing from you, I think it's probably something else that's in a question, is like Austin's stuck with some very imperfect midfielders. So you don't have any flexibility to do anything else with this one, even if you would want to keep him around.
Right. And maybe there are some other moves like transfers or whatever, but it doesn't feel like the midfielders are going to be the most likely options for that. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, you hinted about this. So Damian Loss wins. Is that right? Is it a Golden Glove? I wrote that down, and now I'm so baseball oriented. I'm like, is that a real thing? Good. Okay, like yeah, whatever. They had the most shutouts at USLs. Also posted it's been a real goodbye to Louisville post today. Like, does he come back to Austin? I wish I would have gone and looked and seen, because I believe like last year it was a 1-year loan. And I wonder if we got a goodbye post last year and they just went ahead and sent him back too. I don't know that to be sure, but it seems like this one's kind of final. Like, do you think he comes back to Austin or does he go somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know. It in a vacuum, I feel like it would be a better scenario for him to go somewhere else and continue being a starting goalkeeper for his development's sake. But when we're looking at Austin's roster build, Damian Loss, I believe, is still marked as a homegrown player. Am I right about that?
Yes.
So if he came here and we're a homegrown player, he would be a supplemental roster player and would not count towards the senior roster the way that Stephen Cleveland does. That's a pretty easy way to get yourself an extra senior roster spot, right? Like don't pick up Cleveland's option, bring back Loss, have him be your backup. That's an extra senior roster spot. So I could see how that would be tempting. And we've talked about this before, right? Like the debate of like, is it better for Loss to be a backup here and like play Open Cup or whatever, or be starting every game at a lower level? I still think it's better for him to start every game, but Roto needs to prioritize like what's good for this first team right now.
Right.
And sometimes that's to the detriment of developing players. We've seen that with CJ Fodre, with some other players. Like yeah, they need to play, they need to develop, but we need to win. And sometimes those things are at odds with each other.
Yeah, and he has started now. You know, he's got 2 years worth of starting somewhere else. So I think you would. If it was me and you can pull it off and not have a player that's like super unsatisfied and demanding something else, which it doesn't seem like he would have enough skins on the wall to be in a position to do that. Like I absolutely think that bringing him back and creating some flexibility would be a good thing to do.
And maybe the pitch to Damian is, hey, we're going to give you at least a couple of Open Cup games, and if you play well, we'll give you more. And then Brad Stuver is not getting younger, and like, he's been an Ironman so far, but you never know, right? Like somebody's gonna get it. Like people get injured. That's how you get your chance. Be ready for your chance, and maybe it turns into something. Like I don't want Brad to get injured, but I could see that being the pitch to Loss that gets him to come back and be the backup and be okay with it.
Yeah, well, let's go on to another social media post. So we see Ricky Pooge posting from somewhere in Austin on Instagram. Somebody in Slack had identified exactly where it was. So
I had totally missed this until you put it in the show notes here.
Yeah, his shirt, in case you're wondering, his shirt was tucked in.
Of course
he was wearing like not a jersey, but a dress shirt. Or not a dress shirt, sorry, he's wearing a t-shirt and like a regular pair of pants, and his shirt was tucked in. So what do you think? It's free agency's coming up. He's coming to town?
Is he? He's not a free agent, is he?
No, he's not.
I mean,
they would have to trade for him. Can you imagine what that structure would be to get him to Austin?
Yeah, it's with the cash transfer, it's possible now. Like before, like if you had to trade GAM, there's not like you could trade every bit of GAM every team in the league has, and it might be enough. But now with the cash transfers, like it's possible, like it is physically possible to happen. Does that mean I think there's any chances happening? Absolutely not. Like LA Galaxy was one of the best teams in the league and won the title, and then he got hurt, and they were the worst team in the league without him. It wasn't just him, but it had a lot to do with him. There's no way they're letting him go. And if he does leave, he's probably going back to Spain or to Europe somewhere. He's not going to an MLS competitor, especially a worse one. Like, why would he come here right now?
Wait, I thought you'd set the whole soundboard up so you could play the GAM chant when we talk about
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So can you bring that out?
Yeah. Peek behind the curtain. I've been having trouble with the soundboard and like troubleshooting some issues with it. So I've just not been using it the last few weeks and have forgotten to do it. So I need to relearn where everything is and be sure to remember to use them all.
Okay, and then this is a commitment we can probably make when we do this. We're going to do New Year's Day show again because we always do. Y'all come out and we'll try to find a way to create some new sounds for the soundboard too, because we can
maybe
always
not
use
a
that,
show,
right?
but a meetup.
We're going to do a
meetup to
meetup.
A show this year.
That's fair. We will do a meetup, and we will have a chance for people to chant things that we record to be put on the soundboard. How about that?
Deal. I was also thinking, while we're speaking of off-season activities, we did Moon Tower After Dark last year. Listeners, let us know if you want us to do that again, or if you want us to pick another stupid thing to do. Specifically our Patreons, right? Because we released this one to the public. We said maybe we would only do it to Patreons this coming year. So maybe we'll stick to that to encourage people to join. But if anybody has any ideas of what we should do, or if you just want us to do the same and do After Dark again, let us know.
Keep us from embarrassing ourselves to the general public and only embarrassing ourselves among the family. I like it. Well, let's talk about one more player rumor. This one popped up today. I don't really know anything about it other than like the screenshot you just posted in the show notes.
Yeah. So this is, we talk about the difference in reports and rumors. If I could classify this one as something less reliable than a rumor, then I would. And it is that Mirto Uzuni is, the report is exploring the option to leave MLS, and Italian Serie A side Cagliari have interest in him. Something like that may well be true, but this source specifically, like we talk about this a lot, right? Look at our media literacy public service announcements that we do on the show every once in a while. Like, pay attention to where it's coming from. Is anybody else reporting it? Is anybody else corroborating it? This specific outlet just straight up makes stuff up all the time. and gets into arguments with Tom Bogert on Twitter and stuff. So it, like something like this may be in the works, but I'm not going to believe it based on this accounts report.
I have a hard time believing that a mid-table Serie A club would see what Mirto Uzuni has done this year and want to get him. So like, I don't even know if the headline is that credible. I'm sure he would be, this could be an agent thing, right? Like I'm sure he and his agent would be happy for him to move back to Europe and play in one of the big 5 leagues in the world. But like, it doesn't seem like very credible either.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like that specific team, like that level of team, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And like the number has to make sense for Austin too. Like I don't think they're going to let Uzuni just walk away after what they paid for him last year. So the number would have to be right regardless of the buyer.
Well, the number would have to be right in order for Austin to be able to free up a DP slot too, right?
True,
Don't they have
true.
Somebody has to pick up like all of his salary or most of his salary, or
yeah, if it's a loan. If it's a loan, I think if we straight up sell him though, that stops mattering as much.
Oh, gotcha. Right. And I guess the other news we have, and it doesn't really matter for Austin, other than it's just interesting and good for these guys. So we have another round of international matches coming up, and we have 6 Austin players associated with the club in some way. They get called up on international duty. So Julio Cascante called up for the qualifiers for Costa Rica. Irvin Torres gets into U19 training camp call up. Micah Burton gets a U20 training camp call up. And then Svatak and Uzuni both get called up for qualifiers. Danny gets called up for a set of friendlies for Venezuela. It's from where Austin was in 2021, especially. Like, it's good to see any dudes getting calls in with the national team.
Yeah.
Do you want to have any commentary on any of them specifically?
I think for me, it's the youngsters that maybe catch my eye a little bit here. The others, like the senior guys have been getting called in regularly, and I'm happy to see them continue to get called in, especially like Uzuni to get Albania to the World Cup. That would be huge. And if he can, like, he seems to be pretty firmly fixed in that squad. That would be very cool for him. But Irvin and Micah, just like everyone knows how I feel about him and what I think his ceiling is, that it's quite high. So glad to see him continue to get call-ins. Micah, I think the last question we had about Micah, like we both kind of had a fairly negative prognosis on him, right? We're like, he's whatever age it is, 19 years old or whatever, still not really cracking into the first team. Doesn't look like he's even close to that. The fact that the national team does still believe in him and does still see something in him, I think that's nothing but good. Like that, hopefully that he can translate that into success and progression within the Austin FC system. But he is still getting calls for the national team.
Well, and one person who's not on this list that I want your perspective on is Owen Wolff, who doesn't get called in the U21s, but we've had discussions in the national media, like at least online, over the last couple weeks about where he sits among the young players, right? And he was like, what, 5 or something on the 22 under 22. And doesn't that just come down to like him being born 2 days too late?
For like the youth national teams, it does. So like was it the U20s that had the World Cup not too long ago? He's 2 days too old to be on that team. But there's been a lot of talk about him getting into like the senior national team, which would be the next step after that U20 age group. I'm glad to see some national voices putting his name into the conversation, because I think he deserves to at least be mentioned. I don't think it's a great injustice that he's not getting called into the national team. I saw some comparisons about him and Diego Luna, and they're like, Owen by a lot of measures had a better season than Diego Luna and potentially even has a higher ceiling than Diego Luna. But Diego Luna scores goals and is just like a real difference maker in a position where that game at Q2 when Austin was playing against Ecuador. Is that who it was? Yeah, Ecuador. At halftime.
Well, not Austin, but...
No, sorry. Yeah, the U.S. was playing against Ecuador. I said at halftime, I ran into, I think it was Tom Halleck, maybe, a listener of the show. And I said, I think they need to put Diego Luna in at halftime because he's like a spark, and we don't have that right now. And they put him in at halftime. We scored like 5 minutes after that. I don't think that's the thing you would say about Owen Wolff on that team, is to say, oh, we got to put Owen in here. He's like a real spark, creative midfielder. Like for Austin, relatively speaking, yes, he has been that at times, but to do that at the national stage or at a higher level stage, he's not that kind of player. And I think that maybe limits his opportunities there. But we're going to talk a little bit later about like what we think Owen's future looks like. And I think it is bright and the ceiling is quite high, but because of the player he is, I'm not sure he's going to get a lot of immediate looks into the U.S. senior national team right now.
Yeah, and he hasn't really been a significant part of the program like growing up, and he's still, I think, 1 year into being part of the conversation for the national team. So some of that's just the credibility and sort of the stuff that's built up over time, and maybe he has another great year. If he advances next season the way he advanced between this season and last season, then maybe it becomes a different conversation. But he just doesn't seem ready for that yet. So, do you want to go ahead and take the second break now and just have a super long third segment and get to these listener questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Hang tight. We'll be right back with a bunch of listener questions.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities and is proud to support Moon Tower Soccer.
Well, Landon, I mean, this question came up. Mike asked Adrian on the fly 2 weeks ago, and Adrian Ilie came up with a really great answer, which leaned back basically to telling listeners how smart they were and handsome or pretty or whatever. So, like, I don't know, come up with your most sort of the way that you can suck up to our audience the most answer here, because there's not a soccer related way that we could possibly realistically answer this question.
Because we have the most intelligent listener base in Major League Soccer. How's that?
That's perfect.
All right.
How should people find out more?
Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We have a boatload of listener questions. We're going to try to get through all of them if we can. If we can't, we'll bump some next week, but we'll see. Jeremiah, let's start off with a few questions that folks had for me about my trip to Japan, which was touching that you guys cared.
Yeah, and usually when we do these like listener questions, we alternate questions, but I think for this set, it would be kind of dumb for us to do this. Like, I'm going to ask all the questions and attribute them to the listeners. So let's do with Long Cow, which is, what was your most unexpected thing about your Japan trip?
Oh, yeah. So first small one is I was surprised by how well I did with chopsticks. I'm not good at using chopsticks, but it turns out if you just use them every day, you'll get a lot better. And so I did, and I got a lot better. I've also, like, want to be careful here. This can sound like a xenophobic take, but really it's a practicality take where I'm just like, is there not better options than chopsticks in a lot of scenarios? And I realized, like, okay, with the food that we were eating there, a lot of times chopsticks were great. But one thing that I've been converted on, I'm still not sold on every food being a chopstick food. But one thing that I am sold on now is salad. I feel like all salads should be eaten with chopsticks now.
That's incredible.
Much easier than using a fork.
I don't know, man. I just failed with I was going to say ramen. I am for sure a fork food for me because I just tried to eat with chopsticks as recently as last night and failed.
My bigger revelation, like unexpected thing, is I am not a car guy at all, Jeremiah. And I fell in love with all of these weird old Toyota models that do not exist in the US that I was seeing over there. When you go to Kyoto, there's a lot of stuff there that's like regulated as far as like kind of looking old, and like all the buses have this retro green color look to them. All of the taxi cabs, or most of the taxi cabs, are like late 80s, early 90s models of a car called a Toyota Comfort, which I believe did not exist in America. And the some of them were kind of beat up and old, but the really like nice fixed up ones with like the chrome or gold trim on them were really cool looking. And then there was this like sports car looking thing that we ran into one time called a Toyota Soarer, Soarer. And I, like, again, not a car guy. I want to buy one of these. Like, I want to pay someone to import one of these to America so I can have it. I just loved this car so much, and that was the most unexpected thing about the trip for me.
God, you know what I love this discussion is, who was the guy that played defender for Dallas for so long that we interviewed?
Matt Hedges.
And like all he was, Matt Hedges. God, Matt Hedges is, he's not listening, but if Matt Hedges was, he would be so happy to have this conversation with you.
He probably wouldn't have been impressed by the horsepower of either of these cars that I fell in love with, but maybe he would have still enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, and you have a note about hospitality, which I will leave to you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I just been reading, like I do a lot of prep when I go to a new country just to learn how to be a good guest, but also just when you have some context and some information, I tend to enjoy the trip a little bit more. And so I had been reading how like Japan's been struggling with like over tourism in certain areas, and how attitudes towards tourists by some locals has been turning and like becoming inhospitable at times. But I realized once I got there, it's like, oh, right, just don't be a jerk and people will be nice to you. And I found that to be true over and over and over. And the people were very lovely, had some very nice interactions with folks, even when we couldn't really speak the same language. And so, yeah, Japan's great. And I really liked it there.
All right, well, let's go to Heather Rush Gonzalez, because it's somewhat related. What's the best piece of advice or tip you got for your trip?
Yes. So we were picking the brains of some friends. So specifically Colby James, who plays music and used to go to Japan, I think like every year to do like a tour with his band. And so he's been to Japan a lot. Our friends, the Ensigns, have been at least once, maybe twice, and went pretty recently. So they gave us a lot of tips. And I was asking them, like, oh, this specific thing, like, did you go do it? What did you think? Is it a must see? And all three of them were like, don't worry about like the tourist sites as much. Just kind of follow your nose and like chase the vibes, kind of, as opposed to like doing the tourist stuff. And that was really good advice. Was yeah, not worrying about tourist attractions, but just finding stuff that felt genuine and felt different and new and worth exploring. And that served us really, really well throughout the trip.
Cool. And then, so sort of on that note, what's the best thing you did?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I don't think there was like any one big spectacular thing that was the highlight. It was kind of all of it combined. But one thing, like following that advice, was when we went to Kyoto, it is very touristy, and like the big tourist attractions draw thousands and thousands of people, and it's just like that all day, every day. And so following that bit of advice, we did an e-bike tour that kind of skipped all of the main tourist attractions and took you to like more quiet, lesser known spots. And that was really, really great. And one other funny soccer anecdote is during the first Austin FC game in LA, we had booked this e-bike tour before the game was scheduled, right? So we were like, maybe we can watch them, but we ended up booking this. We're like, okay, we're not going to watch it. Our tour guide was a practicing Zen Buddhist. And so when we were at one of these Buddhist temples, he was like, if y'all want, we can sit down and do just like a quick little meditation in this like beautiful garden where it's perfectly silent in this city where I didn't think I was ever going to hear silence. And so he sat us down and did this little meditation, and it was while LAFC was coming back to beat Austin FC. No, it was during the own goal. The Heinzike own goal had happened during that very moment. And so me and Ashley were like, maybe we made a pretty good decision to do this instead of watching this game live.
Instead of that, yeah.
I was in probably a much better mood than all of my friends back home, and a much more peaceful experience for sure.
That's so cool. That's so cool, man. Let's go to Robert Miller here. I just generally, I'd say the first set of most of the questions are just like Tokyo. Did you go to Tokyo?
Robert always sends 1,000 questions, and which not criticizing.
We love him for it, right?
Love it, because then we just get to pick the ones that we have time for that we want to answer. So let's just pick a couple here.
Yeah, I love this. This is rooted in the origins of this show, which are often around food and drink. So that's where we're going to go here. So, did you try any Japanese beer / whiskey, and if so, what was your favorite?
Yeah, I didn't try a ton of beer. I've kind of I'm drinking less beer these days, first of all, but I've kind of learned like the US, if you're looking at craft beer, like the US is the place to be for that kind of thing. And so I kind of stopped trying to find good craft beer elsewhere. That being said, Japan's macro brews are pretty solid. You could do a lot worse than like Asahi or Kirin Ichiban or Sapporo. Like pretty solid macro brews there. So I had quite a few of those. I did have some whiskeys, not a ton, but I was mostly drinking shochu whenever that was available. I think I mentioned this on the show before. And that was one way that I learned that I could like endear myself to locals, was when I walked into a place that had shochu on the menu. I could order that like the way I wanted it prepared in Japanese. Is like just one very prepared statement that I memorized. And they were often like, oh, this guy knows how to order that. And like he knows what it is and knows how to order it. That was a way to like endear myself to service staff. And so I was kind of incentivized to order it for that reason, but also I was just really enjoying it. And I'm going to use my platform here. It's hard to find in Austin, shochu is. If you know of like your neighborhood fancy bottle shop, if you see any shochu on the shelf, let me know, because I'm going to go and buy it. And it's not soju, the Korean drink SOJU. This is SHOCHU.
So you did not show up at every restaurant and throw back sake bombs until you threw up on the floor? Wow. Amazing.
I did not.
Kind of ties back to the earlier thing about being a tourist.
Didn't see sake bombs on the menu anywhere, Jeremiah. That's more of a
Right.
That's more of a Lubbock, Texas specialty.
I think it is. Oh, what about your favorite place to eat on the trip?
Ooh, place to eat. So sacrilegiously, one of my favorite meals, and I think this is probably in top of Ashley's list too, was a place that was serving Indian curry. We didn't really know it when we walked in, because there is like Japan has their own version of curry as well. We went into this place and they were serving like a more Indian style curry. It was a Japanese chef kind of putting his little spin on it, but that meal was amazing. The other one was this udon restaurant that was like, you order on a computer outside and it prints out a ticket. And you walk in, give them your ticket, pick up your noodles, go sit down at this like communal table where like maybe 15 people can sit. And they just like crank through customers all day, every day like that. And the concept was really fun, but then the food was just really, really good. And this one was, shout out to Long Cow. He actually recommended this specific spot, and that ended up being one of our favorite meals.
All right, well, let's go into the soccer part of the show. And I will ask you the first question, and then we can go back to like switching back and forth on providing the immediate answers. So this is an Andrew Urban question. After 5 years, 2 coaches, 2 GMs, 2 playoff runs, 1 cup final, 2 Copa Tejas trophies, the most important trophy in all sports. What would you say the Austin FC identity is? Playing style, attitude, etc.
Oh, I was going through thesaurus.com trying to find the right single word for this as far as the identity. Is the word ineptitude too harsh, Jeremiah? It feels mean.
No.
But
yeah,
if we're taking like on the field identity or just like sporting identity, it's mostly been like, oh man, this is going poorly. And for like reasons that were foreseen, kind of. I think there's a lot about this club that has gone right. And especially it's like mostly the non-sporting side of it. And there's been some things break our way. 2022 happened, and that wasn't entirely by accident, but it seems like there was some luck, some chance, some type of greater than the sum of their parts thing happening for one reason or another. But outside of that, it's mostly been pretty disappointing, and for like the reason being of incompetence of one person or another.
Yeah, I don't think it's too harsh. I'm going to use another word that's not really a word, and I'm going to invite you to push back if you disagree with this word, but it's like Berhaltery. I think it's still like the common theme. It's like, look, but
What
like
do you mean by that?
not the bet. Well, Josh Wolf has this Berhalter USMT through line. The whole front office has this like love beginning with Anthony Precourt about it. Like that's the school that Nico came out of. So like obviously there are different versions of it, but like it's some, I don't know. Maybe they should just hire Greg Berhalter. Like if that's really what Austin wants to do, it feels like we're getting the Timu version of Berhalter ball and style. And I wonder if that's some of the problem with why we haven't succeeded in the way that people would like us to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I don't know. If we're talking about like the Berhalteriness being the reason why the team has mostly been pretty bad, I don't think I fully agree with that part, but it is undeniable that like the people who have been involved in decision makers at the club are all tied, like mostly tied to Greg Berhalter, right? So yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, let's go on to. There's 2 Swoon Tower questions, so we'll let Steph and Mike answer those. I would imagine, unless you really, really want to dive into one of them.
No, we can leave those for them.
Okay, Dave Rosen.
Oh, let me ask you. I haven't asked you one yet.
Go for it. Yep.
Dave says, in a world where we don't magically add an all-star playmaking midfielder, what are the 2 to 3 positions on the roster where an upgrade will have the most impact in raising the team floor? So yeah, what he's saying, like, let's take attacking midfielder aside, like what position could actually help this roster out a lot?
So my answer is probably going to be the same as your answer, and that's just like attacking creativity anywhere on the field. But I also feel like that was the promise coming into this season. Remember, there's like this debate about which, when we get to over/under, which is something we're gonna have to do the next few weeks, we're gonna fail miserably at how many goals like came out of the attacking force. This idea was like, oh, you don't need one single dominant factor to be goal dangerous, and we're just gonna like find goals everywhere, all over the field. So to just say attacking creativity is kind of a cop out because like we've tried that and didn't work. But still, yeah, like anybody that can in any way do, the way Osman Bukhari can make a difference, the way that Owen in his best moments can make a difference. Like we just need more of that.
Yeah. And like, I put left wing as one of the positions, like specific positions that we could probably upgrade at. But I think you're exactly right. Like the playmaking, chance creating is the glaring missing piece. And so wherever that comes from, I think like an attacking midfielder is the most obvious way to fix that, but that's what the team needs. And I don't care what position they play. As long as they're able to create chances for their teammates on a regular basis, they can play center back for all I care.
So Julio Cascante is the most important person on this roster. This is the one that we sort of hinted around when we were talking about Ilie. As you mentioned on the last, this is also a Dave Rosen question. As you mentioned on the last show, Sabovic is on a multi-year deal. As the year went on, it was harder and harder to ignore his weaknesses as he kept getting playing time. What am I missing? What is his strengths? Well, should we be excited about having him on the team for 2026?
Yeah, I went back and looked at my notes of watching film of him, he was in Sweden. Is that right?
Right.
And essentially like his strengths were just like being like a cruiser in the midfield, or just like he wasn't super fast, wasn't super dribbly, but clean on the ball, could hit diagonals, could play through balls, did set pieces. And so he just had a lot of gifts on the ball. and then could use his physicality to like hold guys off the ball, like off of him while he's keeping the ball, or to use his physicality defensively. He's just not been effective enough at any of those things to warrant having him on the field for all of his other deficits. One thing, I mean, we're going to say this a million times. I feel like listeners are going to get annoyed that this is the answer to every question, is that maybe an attacking midfielder would help him. Because in his team in Sweden, he had like this little like Luka Modric kind of guy floating around him. And so first instinct was always give it to that guy. And so I'm going to receive, keep the ball, but as soon as I can, give it to that guy and he's going to create things. And then it freed up Savovic to kind of float into spaces, to be in the rest defense shape whenever guys were pushing forward. And he was good at that. Like he did well in that setup. But if he's the guy who has to create everything, which he was playing as like one of the dual 10s in this setup quite a bit, we saw that he didn't really thrive there. So I'm not making full excuses for him. He did not play well this year, and he needs to be better. But I think there's some context there that like pieces around you matter sometimes. This next question comes from Jeff, and this was sent to the Patreon DMs like 2 months ago. And I just think we haven't done listener questions since then, but he said that he had the thought and wanted to get it out before he forgot about it. So we're going to go back. It's still relevant here. Jeff says, has Diego Rubio surpassed Felipe Martins as the Austin FC minister of shithousery? If not, what else does it take for Diego to take this throne?
I would say yes, he has. I mean, it's a different level of it. The reason I would say that Diego Rubio is like his shithousery is in a way that makes both people that are fans of his team love him and other people respect him. And I feel like we've read for years like that Felipe Martins was like the most hated player in the league from everybody else other than people on his team. And I feel like by the end of his one season in Austin, he was like also annoying his teammates because he was like so committed to the bit. So I feel like it like in that way, like Diego's a better overall, has a better overall ability of like using the dark arts to make his team better. And that maybe is something that Felipe lacks, where it's just like, he's just like an annoyance for everyone all the time.
And one thing I looked up earlier is if you look at the sheer minutes, Felipe Martins, I think, played a little over 700 minutes in his single season for Austin FC. Diego Rubio, I think, has like well over double that at this point. And so like how effective can you be doing that from the bench when you're almost never on the field? I don't know. And so if it were like the numbers were more even, I think it would be easier to pick Felipe here. But just out of the longevity and like the amount of time he's been on the field, I think you have to give it to Rubio.
All right, let's go to Matt Killingsworth, because I guess I like making myself feel sports memorable. Who is your your top
miserable?
Miserable. Sports miserable. Yeah. What is your top 3 and bottom 3 fan moments?
Oh man. Top 3. I think thumping FC Dallas in the playoffs has to be one of them. Beating LAFC at home 4-1 has to be one of them. And then I'll go throwback that's like less about on-field performance, but in year 1, we made the road trip to Minnesota. And that was just a lovely trip all around, but we ended up kind of like becoming friends with people who are now very good friends of ours and kind of started the bond on that trip. So that trip overall was really, really good. What about your positive ones, Jeremiah?
I'm going to go on positive ones. Yeah.
I know one of them. You're going to say Den Verde for one of them, right?
Den Verde is one of them for sure. Yeah. We were talking about road trips. It's like, this is the one. Just the number of people, like the fact that it was so new that we all flew back. Southwest Airlines announced that like members of Austin FC were on the plane when it was really just a bunch of fans in jerseys who obviously like nothing at all like athletes, but that was cool. And then like Andy Lockney buying us all pizza after we pick up a victory. That was amazing. The LAFC one has to be in 2022 has to be one of them. And I want to have a different answer than your Dallas one. So I would just say still, man, the very first home game against San Jose, which was very unremarkable as a match, but just to be in that stadium after not being really around people other than in Denver for years, and sort of like seeing all the stuff that like all of our hopes and dreams come to be a reality, and like walking around and talking to these people that had been involved since the early days, and like it being sold out and being all the energy, and we're going to answer a TiVo question, like having the legends of Austin there, like that has to be one of my top 3 moments.
Oh, I'll add another positive one, which was winning Copa Tejas in Dallas. And a quick recap, they did not let us give the trophy to the players in their stadium. And so the players were just hanging around. And that's where I got video of Ruben Gabrielson doing the worm on the field. And they were all just like being goofy, hanging out on the field. And then they sent us out into the parking lot, which was a real jerk move and kind of pissed us all off to begin with. But it ended up being kind of a special moment where just this weird environment where we're all celebrating together, and Alex Ring tried to fight a security guard for being mean to Austin FC fans. Like that was pretty special. That was a unique situation for sure.
Okay, now bottom 3.
Oh God. Okay. I'm going to say, Jeremiah, I think you were there for one of mine, which I'm going to say Nashville away in 2022 when Hani Mukhtar solidified his MVP title essentially by beating Austin. It was like 3-0 or 3-1 or something in that game. I was furious at that game.
And we got that lightning delay, and it was just like really boring. That trip was fun though.
The trip overall was good. The game was not fun.
The game was not. We learned we could travel together and neither one of us snore too bad. That's the best part of that trip.
I'll put Jesus Ferreira holding his jersey up to the south end after scoring on us. Was that maybe 2023? I don't remember what year that was.
And my second one of those would be the 2023 St. Louis match where Jared Stroud, the Kip Keller, Jared Stroud event. And also we spent the whole offseason talking about how, at least I did, I don't want to rope you into this too, about how like really the team was probably deeper in 2023 than 2022 because the acquisitions and things broke right in 22, and then just that game set the tone for the whole season.
Yeah, no, I'll convict myself on that stuff as well. I was very much on the same side of those conversations as you. Yeah, I think that might be on mine as well. And then as many like funny references and memes have come out of this once we've healed from it, the Violette loss, that was pretty painful and hard to watch.
I mean, it was that was actually embarrassing, right? Because like we didn't even know if they were going to have we're even going to be able to field a team 2 weeks before.
Yeah,
this game was to come to pass. Then to lose that one, so I just Open Cup. This is again because of like live experience. The first season when we all went to San Antonio, we're told we couldn't bring instruments, so we tried to sneak several hundred kazoos into the stadium. Almost all of which it got confiscated, which was great to see. There was like this trash can overflowing with like pocket-sized kazoos, and then to lose that one and like in a very dispirited, like it never seemed like Austin had a chance. Like that was a bad loss.
That was another one where the time zone saved me. I think I was in Portugal for that one, and it happened at like 3 a.m. and I wasn't going to stay up, and so I just like woke up and checked the score. I was like, well, not watching that one.
That one sucked. Yeah, let's go on.
All right, next question. Where are we at?
David Hubel.
David Hubel. All right, the first one here, it says, it feels like Bukhari wasn't as impactful in 2025 as he could have been given his quality. Do you agree? And if so, who bears the responsibility? Nico, other players, or Bukhari himself?
wait, I'm gonna refrain from being like a little bit of everybody and just say like I feel like among those three options, Bukhari himself is the least responsible for that. Like he has a pretty unique skill set for this club, but you have to have other players around him and a coach that sort of understands how to use it. Like he's the only dude with enough speed to like beat people on the ball, but it requires the people around him to be better for that skill to be useful.
Yeah, 100% agree. And yeah, my answer to the multiple choice question was going to be yes. But I agree with you. I think like Bukhari deserves some criticism here, but probably less than all of the other parties involved. Where Nico Estevez was playing him on the left wing, where he very much looked uncomfortable for like the first quarter of the season, if not longer than that. And then we talked again. The answer is always a creative playmaker. Where stretches of the season we struggled to get Bukhari into spots where he could be effective. And I think having someone who can effectively play him through, effectively crack open defenses to have those spots where you can play Bukhari through, that would have been really helpful to him as well.
Yeah, I just feel like he's a very specific type of player, and there's nothing that he could do to change the way he plays or in his game that would make like a meaningful difference. Like whatever he would be doing other than what he's doing would make him less effective overall. And that's where you have to look at the talent and the style around him and make the best that you can out of the way he plays the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think like some of the decision making that we've talked about, where, okay, you're in this spot, you have a cutback. Do you play that or do you rip it top corner and hope to beat the keeper over his shoulder? And so many times it feels like he picked the wrong option in those moments. But if you get that guy 10 of those options in a game, it doesn't matter. Like he's going to get one of them right. Or if he's getting two and picks the wrong option on both of them, it looks a lot worse.
Yeah, well, let's go. Okay, so Roto has talked about not being fixated on specific player profiles when acquiring players and being open to different possibilities. This is a question, I guess, play yourself as Roto. Are there player profiles you absolutely need to sign this offseason, would take if the price and quality were right, or wouldn't take even if there was a great deal available?
So yeah, I think to like boil this down, it's like positions profiles, like which are the ones we absolutely need, which are the ones that we would take at the right price, and which are the ones that we just don't need, like we're full up. Like absolutely need to sign. We've already said it 100 times. Creative playmaker. Let's move on to the other two categories. Or are there any other profiles that you would say we absolutely need to like upgrade on?
No, I'd say that's what we absolutely need. I think the one that we wouldn't take is like a player who is an attacking player who wants to play central, be they a number 9 or a left wing. Like we don't need another guy who does whatever Uzuni and Brendan Vasquez do because they are obviously ineffective doing it together.
Yeah, totally agree. And then I'm trying to think of like, so on the back line I think there's like room to add some pieces, but probably more like depth budget pieces as opposed to bringing in upgrades necessarily. I think especially if like we're going to continue to play 3 center backs, like probably another center back would be useful, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a starter. It could be a depth guy or like a supplemental guy who you think could contribute a little bit. That would probably be enough there. Same with the fullbacks. Like maybe you could bring someone in, but if we're going to keep all the guys we have now, there's quite a few players there to add another one without moving somebody on.
Well, I would say if the price and quality were right at this point, and I don't know if I would have said this at the start of the year, like a replacement for Guilherme Biru, if you could find one. I don't know if you can because like he's very budget friendly right now, but like somebody who doesn't get lost in moments and seems to only have moments of greatness or moments of terrible, I think would be an upgrade on this club.
And then, yeah, I guess like players we wouldn't take, or like profiles we wouldn't take, essentially like difference, like non-starters, non-obvious difference makers who are on senior roster spots, right? Like we can't afford it. Our hands are going to be tied here. Like to be a contender, the players you add have to be difference makers Otherwise, we're in the same spot we've been in the last, I don't know how many years, where we said, okay, if they can get this spot right or this one roster spot right, Austin FC could be good. And it's never worked out.
Yeah, I would say a midfielder that's limited in many of the things you need from a midfielder specifically is the problem, because like Austin has a boatload of those right now who do some things well and some things poorly.
Yeah, a midfielder whose like career best assists is like 6, or an attacker whose career best goals is 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Can't afford it. All right, let's go on to Taylor Kopwick's question. What does Owen's future look like? What type of team would buy him and for how much? Conversely, how much would his value improve if he had an even better year next year in Austin?
Well, one thing that we've talked about, that Roto's talked about, is like needing to sell players for a profit in order to like create budget flexibility, and Austin's going to be stuck again. But I really feel like Owen, this is not the offseason to sell Owen. I really feel like he's developing. I feel like you can optimize his value by getting another year. Yeah, like an even better year next year in Austin, or as good of a year next year in Austin. Like some amount of development, probably not the exact same season, but I feel like just because of his age, right? He's just barely 20. And I feel like if you could get him to 21, have him have another great year, that's when you can maximize what you can sell him for. And I realize the risk is that he doesn't have a great year next year and you can't get quite as much. But that also means that you get to keep one of Austin FC's best players right now, and you've got other big problems all across the pitch.
Yeah, I Soccer Wise was talking about Owen Wolff on a show last week, I think. And Bogert seemed like a little bit perplexed as to why he hadn't heard anything about Owen Wolff yet. Like he's like, I know teams are interested in him, but I've not heard any like concrete offers or like this team specifically is going to go after him. Like he's like, I haven't heard any of that. And my like half theory here is there is a value that like Roto and Austin FC have in mind for Owen that is like what they think they could get for him if he has another year like this next year, or even goes a little bit higher than that next year. That number could become quite high. But the fact that he's only done it for like part of this one season essentially is maybe why, okay, if an offer from Europe comes in, they're paying for what he did this year, whereas Austin wants the number for what they think he could do next year. And those things haven't met yet. That being said, like they made this point on Soccerwise where Paxton Aronson went for $4 million when he like wasn't even a starter for the Union. And so I don't know. I don't know how you balance those two things where there's been young guys who've not been starters go for pretty good money to pretty decent level teams, where Owen is like the best player on this team and isn't getting offers yet. So I don't fully understand, but I would guess that he needs to keep proving himself for these European teams to say, okay, we're going to meet Austin's value for him.
Well, and I feel like enough of those young American players have gone over for, like Reggie Cannon kind of began this, have gone over for a lot of money and not panned out, to where like the market is not quite as hot for that kind of player as it was necessarily 3 or 4 years ago.
But then there's been a lot of others go for $1 million, $2 million, which surely they could get that for Owen right now. I think they probably don't.
I would think so, but
sell him for
I was gonna say I think it's under the number that they would want for Owen. That's for me, that's under the number that that doesn't create enough roster flexibility for me to want Owen Wolff to be gone right now.
Yeah, Paxton Aronson for that example, I think his was $4 million is what he was sold for. He went over, didn't do great for like a season and a half, and came back, and he's with the Rapids now. So yeah, that could be part of it. I think you're right. It's like the track record of Americans going over. It's like, okay, maybe they're not all going to be Weston McKennie. They're not all going to be like Tyler Adams, like that level of guy who started off in MLS academies and went over and became like a real top level player. And so maybe they're pumping the brakes until they can see like, okay, these guys can do it a few years in a row. Then we'll pay for that.
All right. Tom Halleck again says if MLS switches the European calendar this coming season, let's just say any season. I don't think it has to be this coming season because
I think
no matter what year.
They've specifically said it's not happening this coming season too, right? I think Garber said that at the All-Star game.
So, but if the MLS switches the European calendar, what would it look like? Would it be a mini season or essentially a prolonged tournament? What would you want them to do?
I feel like the most obvious answer would be to do like an what did they call the COVID tournament? MLS is back.
MLS is, yeah, it's the poster hanging on my wall behind me right now. The old MLS is back tournament. Yeah. And that was super fun. Like it was like pool play and tournament, and it was, yeah.
MLS is back again. MLS is back. We'll workshop it. But anyway, I don't think it's a great solution, but it's maybe the best solution where like I said, they've said they're not going to do it next year. They're going to break for the World Cup. So they'll come back after a big break, finish the season. Let's say they decide to do it in 27 and start the new format like in the fall of 27. I think you just have to do some weird shortened tournament that goes through like the spring and then call that a one-off thing that's done. And then in the fall, you'll start off the new format in earnest. Like, is there any other way that they could do it?
Well, one, I wish I was quicker thinking. I would have gone with MLS is back to Electric Boogaloo for those of you who were fans of breaking. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ways you have to do it. And we have the example of this tournament. The NBA now breaks for like a little in-season mini tournament, which has some outcome on the playoffs. And then I think the NHL now has like that. I think it would be one of the most interesting formats is like the NHL has this little like where the players are from kind of tournament that you play.
Okay.
Like that could kind of be like have MLS players create like like the World Baseball Classic also, which is a preseason baseball tournament. Like create teams from MLS from different like countries and like let them play against each other. That would be the most fun way to do it.
I do think that because of how long it would be, because it would be still like half a year. So I think you'd have to look more like a short season than like a long tournament, if that makes sense. Because let's say you do like group stage and then a big knockout tournament. Like half the team's just not going to play for 6 months. Like, I don't think anybody would be happy with it. Like sporting side wouldn't be happy with them sitting for that long. And then also business side wouldn't be happy because you're not selling tickets during that time. So I would guess it would be kind of like regular season, regular playoffs, but a shorter version of it that you can do in 4 months or something like that.
Yeah. And we do already have a made up tournament that like MLS could lean on. Like maybe there's some version of.
Yes. The Super League Cup or whatever. But I guess Mexico will be playing their regular season at that time too. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Next one is from Nathan Darris. Nathan says, after 5 seasons, which TIFO has been your favorite?
So I think I have to go back to, this is the very first one, right? The Legends one that was kind of the Austin focused.
Oh, the one with like the skyline and all you got like
the
Willie
skyline,
Nelson
Seabury Vaughn, the Salamander, McConaughey for better or worse. One, like just the scale was incredible. Like the artistry was interesting. The fact that they used the video board along with it. There's this like giant crest of Austin FC crest. It's just like sitting in the background. Just all the pieces that came together to make that one. I don't think there's been a bad one, but that one for me is still my favorite.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to just one. I don't think this is my favorite, but I'll give it a shout out just because I'm glad it exists, which is the Bobby Hill one. That's my Copa. I don't know you. It's just hilarious that it exists and that they were able to pull it off and get whoever made the decisions to do that to go along with it, because it's just so dumb and fun. But I think, the Selena one's really good.
The Selena one I like because it's like very unique to Austin. right? Like that is a chant that only exists in Austin.
Yeah.
And it's like very not that a lot of these aren't Austin culture, but it's like that one is very specific to Austin soccer culture in a way that maybe none of the other ones really are.
Yeah, the greetings from Austin one, which was like the nod to the um is it South First Street mural that looks like a postcard on the side of that building. That one was cool, also very Austin. Uh I think I'm going to say one from this year, which was the bat hanging under the Congress Bridge, and it said always here year after year. I really like the kind of the symbolism in that one and like the effectiveness of just the visuals. But a good friend of mine, Mark Tost and Joel Corral, were kind of like the brains behind building that one out. And so I have a personal connection to both of those guys, and then also just really like the sentiment and look of it. So I think that's going to be my favorite.
Well, let's go into another Nathan question. So you have to get rid of any one regular starter from this season, but you have to replace them. Wait, I guess you get rid of any one regular starter from this season. That doesn't really matter, I guess. But you have to replace them with one of the following 2021 Austin FC legends: Freddie Kleeman, Nick Lima, Kakuta Mane, Alex Ring, Jared Stroud. Who are you dumping and who are you replacing them with? And I assume this to be the 2021 version.
Yeah, that's what it says. 2021. Or is it like, okay, we're going to use the 2021 version of that player, which makes the incoming player a very easy choice for me, and I imagine for you as well. It has to be Alex Ring, right?
I was going to say, hopefully it's Alex Ring. Yeah. So if I could take any Kakuta Mane ever, it might be that one. If I had to take the 2025 version,
can we take like 2014? Can we take 2014 Kakuta Mane?
Yeah. If it has to be 2025, like it has to be Jared Stroud, because like the rest of these guys are washed at this point.
Yeah. But okay, let's say we're taking Alex Ring. Who are we replacing? Like, who are we taking out of the team? That's a regular starter.
I mean, there's like the cop-out answer is whichever one of Sabovic, Ilie, I guess those two. Although I think Dubrasarski started some too. Like whoever you consider the regular starter at that midfield position to be.
Yeah, I could also say, if we're saying like looking forward, I think the easy decision is to say let's take Ilie out, because he's probably not a regular starter going forward anyway. And there's a debate of like Ilie at his peak and Alex Ring at his peak, which one's better. But I think 2021 Alex Ring and current Ilie, I don't think there's much of a contest there. Alex Ring was really good that season for a terrible team, but he was one of the few bright spots pretty much every week.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't disagree with that. Okay, let's go on to Tim Thompson.
What would be the positional priority in order that Roto should work on acquiring this offseason? Do we need another center back, or the guy's already good enough? Is Biru a permanent center back now? I mean, I think we can again skip attacking midfielder or like creative playmaker. That's a given. Who else should we be looking at?
And I think a third center back is what you have to look at, because I feel like we've been short a quality center back for 2 or 3 years now in terms of like what we want to have in rotation. And I mean, it would be great to have your third center back be an actual center back in this formation.
Yeah. What about the question about Biru? Like, is Biru a permanent center back now?
I don't want him to be. I don't feel like this is the best place to be. I think if you had a better third center back, then you make him one of the wing backs, and maybe that also makes him more effective, and maybe it also limits some of his defensive mistakes, because he has less responsibility than he does right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think part of his value is just the ability that he can do both. And so even if the plan is to play 3 at the back and for him to be one of those 3, I don't think that means that's all he's ever going to do. I think they'll use him in different ways probably. So I don't think they're necessarily like looking at this as like a conversion project where it's like, okay, you're not doing this anymore. It's like wherever he is, he's still going to be Biru and he's still going to do Biru stuff. And I imagine they'll just put him wherever they think that can be most needed or most helpful. Next one is from Keith Simon. Keith says, oh man, during the post-game press conferences, who do you think asked the best questions and who asked the worst questions? Keith, we're not going to answer those.
Well, I was going to say, that's why I was like, do we need to get into this? Yeah.
But the last part of Keith's question is, and what does it take to get a credential to be able to ask questions during the press conference? I thought that would be something interesting to talk about. Because I think a lot of people don't know, like they don't know who everyone is on those press conferences or why they're there or how they're allowed to be there. And then also like why other people aren't allowed to be there, which is, I think is an interesting question because for the most part, it's like if you work for like a reputable outlet who covers the team, then you can get a credential to be in there. Then some of the listeners might say, well, Landon and Jeremiah, don't you have credentials to be in the room?
Right.
And,
I was going to say, how do we justify our position?
Yeah. And my answer is like, I don't know that I fully can all the time. Like the real answer is like, we kind of got grandfathered in. Like we've been doing this longer than anybody else in our position. And so we were invited at the start because there weren't a lot of people covering it. And I like to think that our coverage of the team and relationship with the team has been such that it's like good for both sides. And so I think for that reason, we've continued to be invited back. I think the other side of that question is there's a lot of really good independent media in Austin, and some of those folks don't get invited into the same stuff that we get invited to, which I don't think is fully fair. I like understand you have to draw a line somewhere. Otherwise it's like, okay, do we just let anybody who wants to come in? But also there's some like really dedicated, talented people not invited to the same stuff we get into. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really torn on that. What do you have any thoughts on that, Jeremiah?
I mean, my thought is just like, I'm really happy. I think the one that was kind of a omission early on was, and I think I might know why just on background stuff, but like the We Are Austin TV guys are committed and have been committed for a long time and have been doing good work. And I was really, I mean, and Alex asks like really good questions. And so I'm super happy to see them be included. And I'm glad that the club open it up to them. And then, I agree. I feel like, it's a team that needs coverage in a crowded media landscape in the city. And so, like, I feel like anybody that's been shown a track record of caring about this team and having a platform for this team should probably be part of the tent just to help get the word out more than it is right now among various communities.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's midweek press stuff. Like I haven't been able to go to them for the last couple of months because of like work and personal stuff. Like it's hard to get out there during the day. Bulking up that press corps would mean more people showing up to stuff like that. It might make game days a bit more complicated, but I mean, it's a good problem to have, I think.
All right, let's go to Jane Kurzawa. Cravey, what would it take to quit your day jobs to do Moon Tower full time? And what additional content would you provide? I mean, I would just believe this is true for both of us. It would take hitting the right 6 numbers on the lottery for us to do Moon Tower Soccer full time, because I don't think there's any world in which this becomes like a lucrative enough gig for us to do it full time. So I'm more interested in the question about like, if money was no object, what additional content would you be interested in providing or participating in?
Yeah, I think for me, doing it once a week and often having to do 2 games, like the stuff I really like sinking my teeth into is kind of like tactical stuff. And then more specifically, like trying to synthesize tactical parts of the game and hopefully explain it in a way that's digestible to folks who hadn't thought about it in that way, or maybe newer to the sport and had never been taught any of that stuff before. Like I really like doing that stuff. It's hard to do with the time constraints that we have to the level that I would really want to sometimes. So I think that would be my answer of like the extra stuff I would want to do if we could afford to spend more time on making content during the week.
and we would have such a broader profile because that was not at all be what I want to do. If I had unlimited time, I think there's just like a lot of cool soccer community stuff happening in this city, and I wish I could like had more time to go to second team games, and I wish I had more time to go to Soccer Assist Gala last week, or like do work with the nonprofits or doing work, or like I think there's like a giant soccer community that's tangentially related to the club that I just like can't engage in because like I've got a day job and a family and things like that, and so like that's where I would like to dig in more.
Well, I think also more interviews where like doing the Apple TV talent or having more players on. Like we've backed off of that a little bit just because of like the extra work that it requires. And we really like, we've had some great interviews on the show over the past few years, and it's extra time away from our families, extra time cutting into what free time we have after our day jobs. And so I think that would be a thing that I would like to do more of as well. And so what would it take to make that happen? Like Jeremiah said, it's money. And I like the little devil on my shoulder wants me to do like a guilt pitch for, that's why you need to join the Patreon and give us all your money. But like Jeremiah said earlier, like the sport is just not there in this country right now. Like if we were the premier Dallas Cowboys podcast, then maybe that could be our full-time job. But we essentially need soccer to grow to a level as such that this could be a full-time job. And it's just not really there right now. So unless somebody wants to become, or who was the dream about? Ray Romano. Unless Ray Romano is going to come and buy our podcast and invest in our content, then I think it's going to have to stay to one show a week and part-time. All right, Jeremiah, I know we said we were going to try to answer all of these, but we're pushing an hour and a half now and still have quite a few left here. Should we call it now and maybe come back to the rest of these next week?
Yeah, let's do that, because I would rather give the rest of these questions, because there's a lot of good ones, and we just took them, basically wrote them down in the order they came in. Like, there's a lot of good ones that we should spend some time on. So I think rather than like not doing those questions justice, let's go ahead and take a pause, and we'll get back to them next week, and maybe we'll have a few more that we can also get to.
All right. Well, we already did everything else. So before we go, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet, wherever you're on the internet, and sign up for the Patreon. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so happy to be back. We will be back next week with the rest of those listener questions, and we'll cover any other Austin FC news that pops up. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothings you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Because they love the cheap boom boom sauce.
Yeah.